Hello, listeners, and welcome to this, the 37th episode of the Heresy Accountability Buddies podcast. I'm Jacob, and this episode I'm joined by
Dan,
Duncan,
Jack,
John,
Jamie,
as well as, Lucas, as one of our special guests. And who's our other special guest who's joining us?
Eric from the Felix Group.
Eric, very glad to have you with us. We've got more than a few of these guys who are finally back from their time at Adepticon, and we are really excited to get the chance to talk about that. But before we end up too deep into that, let's go ahead and go over what some of our hobby progress has been over the last 2 weeks. What's everybody been up to?
I guess I'll go. So, John, I really haven't done a ton. Leading up to Adepticon, I managed to get everything sealed and then immediately placed in a tub. So that way, when we got to Adepticon and unpacked everything, the whole room stank of the sealer I like to use, and that was surprising. Yep, it was pretty funny. And then ended up injuring myself at Adepticon as we unloaded this stuff. But there, I ended up having 4 great games over the weekend and took a flush painting class from Miles, Little Legend Studios, and I'll get into my games and stuff when we actually cover Adepticon. But since then, managed to drive home safe. So it was a 16-hour drive to Adepticon, and then a 16-hour drive home, and then immediately had to turn around and drive to Austin, which is about 4 hours south for me, for work for the next week. And then I got home a couple days ago, and I've just been kind of unpacking and getting everything settled in from Adepticon. Trying to find a place to store all of my Adepticon goodies, so I can thank Jack for helping me track down 8 Hydra tanks.
You didn't break the double digits.
No, I'm probably going to get one more to make it even 9, so I can have 3 squads of 3. I've been watching those on eBay to see how they go for my militia and or Solar Ox, kind of depending on how I want to use those. The other thing I've been doing is I've been really trying to plan what my next projects are going to be. Well, at Adepticon, I picked up a lot of hobby supplies. I got a really good book on basing called Painting War, bringing your miniatures to life, and it's got a bunch of different basing styles that I've been wanting to try out, like mud and different things. Lucas and I have been brainstorming some table ideas, and I managed to get a little jealous of Jack. Post-Adepticon, he took a family photo of all his Ultramarines, and so I decided to pull out a couple tables and take my own family photo. I had everything set up correctly to take the photo, and then realized I'd left all of the jet bikes inside, so I took all the jet bikes out and realized I needed a separate card table just for all my infantry. So I got all the family photos taken. I'll be making a post about that probably before this show goes live. And then my post-Adepticon projects are kind of getting sorted out. I want to finish up a bunch of half-done projects and then work on the Gundam stuff that I talked about a few episodes ago. But not a ton of hobby stuff, just all the minutia and yak shaving that comes along with getting ready to do hobby stuff.
All the ancillary stuff?
Yep, yak shaving. It's a technical term for doing everything that's required to get done the thing that you want to get done.
I have never heard that before. Thank you, sir.
Yep. I will pass it to Jamie.
Yeah. So, what have I done hobby-wise in the past 2 weeks? Nothing. Other than go to Adepticon. Most of my time has been spent actually traveling, to be honest with you. I had a Dickens of a time getting home from Adepticon. O'Hare, I'm not a very fond of at that airport at this point in my life. Had an awesome time at Adepticon, getting to see everybody. I didn't get any games in, but I did do some shopping, and came back, not with a whole lot, but some paint goods, new paintbrushes, which I've kind of been needing, and some stuff to hold my paintbrushes on my desk when I'm using them. And then I've been taking inventory of my Night Lord's army, trying to figure out how to convert it to 2.0 with what I've got, because it's all terror squads and drop pods, and I do actually have some tanks too. So just kind of been inventorying what I've got and what I can add to it to get it playable quickly. And then I haven't really painted anything since I got back, just because I've been at the lake and driving and pulling 14-hour days at work. So not been super productive yet, but it was much needed break. And I will hand it off to Dan.
Let's see. Leading up to Adepticon, I had pulled out my Ultramarines, was going through and doing some extra highlighting and detailing up just on random infantry dudes I had added and weren't at the same level of everyone else. I painted up a few terrain pieces, little mining thing, some stuff I 3D printed. Had all my tables ready for Adepticon. Since I've been back, the only hobby thing I've done, and I'm finishing up as we speak, is I moved my hobby station a couple months ago, 3 months ago, something like that. But I have a shelf that has most of my paints on it. I split them between, like, all my Games Workshop paints are on a little Lazy Susan dumbwaiter thing, and then I have a big shelf that was actually made for knickknacks and shot glasses, but it works really well for paints. So all my scale 75 and a lot of technical paints and stuff are on there. And so it was across the room, which wasn't very conducive to grabbing paints off it while I paint. So I pulled the brackets down and rehung the brackets in my basement and am repopulating my paint shelf and organizing all my paints from where they get scattered all over the place anyway. So again, I would say it's more yak shaving as John spoke of. And just getting ready. One of the things I want to focus on is I have, as probably many of us do, umpteen projects that I've started and are at some middle space. And so my kind of goal for the next 3 or 4 months is to finish a bunch of those things off before I start anything new. So like the Blood Angel stuff that has paint on it, finish all of that stuff. I've got a bust I've been painting, a few other things that I really want to focus on and get off the hobby table. So I've been kind of organizing that stuff and thinking about what my plans are for where I start and where I go there. And again, putting stuff away from Adepticon. So that's mostly what I did. Again, we'll get more into Adepticon, but Adepticon was awesome. So, Duncan.
Right. So, pre-Adepticon, I had all my stuff for my army already completed. And then a couple days before Adepticon, I started doing an artisanal handcrafted pearl. It was being handcrafted inside my right kidney. And it was all kinds of miserable. And
Duncan was in not a good place. He really tuckered it out. He was a super trooper at Adepticon. Everybody took pity upon him.
I will definitely say I appreciate everyone who was like, "Oh, Duncan's not himself." Yeah, I was rolling a kidney stone. I finally rolled it a couple days ago after Adepticon, and I had this thing from before Adepticon, so I was carrying this stone for about 14 days, and it was absolute misery. Alcohol and medication helped, so that's all I can say about that. Post Adepticon, I have started working on a Delvaris figure based on Karn for the Radio Free Istvan podcast competition. Shout out to those guys who also shouted us out, so I'll give them the same. Monty and Derek being back has really been nice to hear again. But other than that, I have done nothing. I've spent. I was actually off a week after Adepticon as well to enjoy doing nothing and burning some vacation that I had to burn. So I've worked on Delvaris and I've started painting some on the con, but other than that, I've done nothing and it's been great. So let's pass it on over to Jack. What did you do, Jack?
Are you saying you didn't shave any yaks?
No, I shaved no yaks whatsoever.
Okay. I can't remember if I talked about this. Got the little Legends Praetor figure in, or count as whatever the legal term is that doesn't get anybody in trouble. That
you won't get anybody in trouble as long as you order it before Christmas.
I ordered it well before Christmas. I ordered it 10 years ago.
That's perfect. Yes, you're fine.
Yes.
Finally came in. Shipping is a bear. Put some paint on that. Again, lots of fun at Adepticon. Left a fun voice message about Monty and his son Derek, because he's just the cutest little baby, cutest little Dickens. I love that kid. And then came back, had some time off. I shaved a yak or two here, cleaning up the hobby desk, because that term shaving a yak is staying in my lexicon forever now. Thanks, John. And I took some time off and pestered Duncan over what we're taking for Adepticon next year with the teams, because I really, really want to push the teams and, the general standard of painting excellent that I know this community is capable of. So, who is Jacob next?
Yeah, I can certainly go next. So my hobby time has been dedicated to continuing to help the fiance move. This weekend we got her big goldfish aquarium moved down. That was quite the ordeal, but it's over now. Wrapping up a D&D campaign. Just finished up Tomb of Annihilation. And putting a little time in with BattleTech in honor of the Kickstarter, and seeing what models we ended up getting in plastic. Deciding to make a trip to Ironwind and put a couple things together in metal. But yeah, generally pretty positive. The biggest part of it, as far as what was most time consuming, has generally been learning the new audio interface for doing the podcast. But hopefully, for those of our listeners out there, the bump in quality comes through.
Jacob,
pretty exciting.
Little side question. So
Yeah.
did you do the Kickstarter?
I did. I think I backed at, what is it, Battalion? That's about $275. That's about what I put on the Clan Invasion Kickstarter. But it was super wild to see people freaking out. I know I've said this before on the show. BattleTech, along with Mage Knight, was like my first real minis war game. Even though they don't necessarily fit the same vein as like 40K or Games Workshop products. And I was at Gen Con the first year that they thought that they were going to be able to show some of the formerly unseen mechs that came from IPs that they thought they had some license to, and then they didn't. So yeah, sat down to play a demo. Guy hands me a data sheet for a rifleman, and no sooner than the model is about to hit my hands, and somebody comes over, taps him on the shoulder, and says, "Put that away. We can't do that." To see things like Full Circle, where we've had multi-million-dollar Kickstarters for BattleTech, where people are excited to be talking about what's coming out and like getting product on shelves, friendly locals carrying it. Cooler thing I could not have immediately have imagined. Really, really exciting.
I will say that at Adepticon, I missed out on the Irby, Battalion?
Yeah, so I did pick up that Irby Battalion. Big shouts to John and my buddy Nick for ninja shopping that for me. Missed out on the Proliferation Pack and technically Snords are regulars. I wasn't immediately planning to pick up Snords Pack just because like Frank and Mechs aren't my speed.
I also was going to get one of the plushies, but they ended up not having any left when I actually went to go shop.
Plushies, I either wish they were a little cheaper or a little higher quality, but that's me.
Well, I was going to get my 10-year-old an Atlas because he probably would have liked that.
Yeah, so. Either the Light Horse or Federated Suns one.
Yep.
Seeing this Kickstarter double their last Kickstarter in like the first 48 hours was just incredible. Super, super exciting stuff. Very, very enthusiastic about it. So
sorry about the detour.
No, it's all good. So that brings us to, do we just have is it just Lucas and Eric who are left for Hobby Progress?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Lucas,
I think so.
Yeah, whichever one of you want to pick up.
Yeah, so right before Adepticon, we had basically just been in the last stages of planning everything, doing all the printing and documents and all that kind of stuff that comes with trying to get 50 players to not run over each other while they're playing games and have any clue what to do. And then right when we came back, we decided to jump into planning our next event, which we'll talk about in a little while. And I've already started painting some terrain for that. So I've started painting another double table by Death Ray Designs. So I just got all of that primed today. So that's pretty much all I've been working on. I took a couple days off, but I'm right back at it.
Yeah, and I'll swing right in on the back.
You want to take it?
Yeah, I'll swing right in
Yeah.
on the backside of that. Yeah, it's basically the same as Lucas. We're tied to this together, and I think most of my week has been either following up on the business side of event running, or working on terrain. We picked up a new terrain sponsor at Adepticon, and I've been really trying to knock it out really quickly so that I can get them some photos of it to just show that we're enthusiastic about it. So I've been pounding out terrain every night this week. I'm about 80% through the stack, so we're getting there.
Awesome.
That's very exciting. So as we move the show forward, we do have a few news items to kind of run over for some announcements. The first of which are actually from us here at Heresy Accountability Buddies. We've got some exciting new news. We do have a new email address where we can be reached at, which is show@heresypodcast.com. Hopefully that's a little easier to remember and gives us a good chance to be able to get back to hearing from some of our community again. Likewise, we have spun up Heresy Accountability Buddies on YouTube, and we would politely ask that you go check us out or give us a follow over there. I know that, or I should say I understand that we need about 1,000 subscribers in order to be able to do live streams on there. And that's something that's of interest to us, and hopefully something that is interest to our community as well. As we kind of push forward then with news items, before we get to the big one from Adepticon, let's talk about what we got just here in the last, 72, 96 hours, which is an announcement about some tanks that had gone suspiciously absent from Forge World's website. Does somebody want to pick that up and run with it?
I guess I can. Everybody had been suspecting that we were going to get new plastic super heavy tanks because all the super heavy tanks, including the Mastodon for Heresy, had gone off sale at Forge World, and which was kind of weird because if you went to the Adepticon show floor to the Forge World booth, they were still selling them, including the Mastodon. They, in fact, I think on Saturday alone, they sold 10 Mastodons.
10?
10.
Wow.
That apparently 40k players love them because you can stick so much in them and it can be multiple different squads, from what we were told.
Okay.
So that's why they like them.
Okay.
That'd be cool to do for us.
Good luck assembling them, guys.
Yeah.
They're fun.
I'm being positive, but anyways, so the big news was that I guess technically we are getting new super heavies. They're basically redoing the existing, and it's not just super heavies, it's most of the tanks that have not been released in plastic, especially the the Bombard and I believe the Javelin Speeder, or at least the las cannon Javelin Speeder, because there was an asterisk they kind of made for that. Yeah. But most of the tanks are getting redone so that they can use the new plastic sponson sprue that GW already has. So they're redoing basically like the sponson integration on all the super heavies and these other tanks and vehicles that didn't have the ability to use the new sprue without serious modification. And then the asterisk was on the Javelin. It's the las because Forge World sells the las cannon Javelin and the missile pod Javelin separate from each other. The las cannon Javelin, from what my understanding was from some emails that were sent to customers, is the one they're converting over to the new style cleats, I guess you would call them, that stick out, or pegs that stick out to clip onto the plastic sponsons. The missile pod one, I think, was indicated that it was still staying the same old style, so it's not being integrated into like one unified kit.
Yeah, a little surprising, but conversely, gives us a good chance to, especially for anybody who's had to bend a Forge World las cannon barrel back into shape, not have to encounter that problem, which is pretty nice.
Yep, I mean, it's good. I'm actually a little happy that they didn't go over to like all plastic super heavies. I mean, I'd rather them spend that time, the time and money doing new infantry, because that's the thing we need the most.
Yeah.
But also that they still are going to have these available. Because I was starting to get a little leery about with them discontinuing all these big tanks at Forge World. Like, are they going to continue carrying tanks at all? Or is everything going over to plastic? Or is stuff just going to get left out, you know? So they're still here. And at least now you can put your Volkites on the sides of your Super Heavies, which some people are really going to like. And, you know, it gives you some options.
So,
Yeah, they said that they were going to give us new data sheets too, so it's going to be interesting to see how they rebalance the Javelin and other super heavies. Hopefully, all the super heavies will come down a lot in points, but the Javelin specifically is going to be really interesting because I think that's honestly one of the better buys right now is the Javelin with twin las cannons because it's so much better than the missiles.
Oh yeah,
such a small points increase. So I'm going to be really curious to see how they rebalance all those guns.
I don't think they're going to rebalance it. I think they're just going to have a new data sheet that lets you take every single option that is available in plastic. The Culverin, the las cannon, the heavy bolter, and the heavy flamer.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how much points each one of those is. Like if they actually adjust the las cannons, like point wise. So,
or if they try to charge as much for the Volkites as they do for the las cannons.
I don't know.
Who knows?
Correctly, the Volkite on a Javelin could be good.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it could be. Can you take a Pintle Volkite on a Javelin?
No.
Okay.
The
I'm looking at the Forge World website, and the las cannon Javelin is still available. So I'm not.
Well, I don't think the Javelins ever went out
They
of.
haven't pulled the Javelins off production line.
Yeah.
They're still available, but they're doing a redesign
Yeah.
to make it work. That's all they've said.
Okay.
And I don't remember if the Bombard had gone out of print either.
Nope.
It was just like the Mastodon and the Three Blades, as
Yep.
far as I remember, that had kind of gone out of production for an extended period of time, and that people had kind of started noticing that. By the way, at
Bombard is
Adepticon?
not on the website
Okay.
that I can
Interesting.
find. I don't know how to spell Aquator, but Bombard only comes up with the Imperial Bombard, also temporary out of stock, and Leviathan Gravflux Bombard. The thing I'm interested in is the Bombard has one sponson that isn't available in plastic. It has the autocannon sponson. So they're just going to have that in resin.
I think I saw that. No, I think I saw that there was a picture then they have on the new stuff.
Yeah.
It was an autocannon.
Yeah, that I'm assuming is going to remain in resin. Am I the only one who thinks that their time could have been much better spent just designing one tiny little bit that they just sold you with
like an adapter disc,
of sponsons
like an adapter
for
disc
$20 or whatever? Yeah.
I mean, I guess.
Have you seen what those sponsons go for on eBay? They're like $75.
Are you serious?
Why a Predator is $60?
Yeah, it's ridiculously overpriced for what they cost. I was going to pick up some for my Secure Inventors because I built them all without sponsons, and now I can take all these other guns, and I was like, I'll just pick up some. I was like, that's more than a Secure in itself to just buy the sponsons for these guys.
Looks like
interesting.
you're right.
Interestingly enough, the Cerebus heavy tank destroyer is now out of production as well, which would make total sense that it's coming out in plastic because the Typhon and the Spartan are already out. So,
well, they have already announced it as well. It's not on Forge World anymore.
Yeah, it just seems that they're kind of dragging their feet with some of these releases. I mean, old GW would have just pushed it out, and we would have just seen about it on rumors when someone got the new tank in. So it seems kind of odd that this was one of our weeks was wasted on or was used up by the announcement that they're retooling all this stuff. I understand why they had to do it because people were freaking out that all this stuff's going out of print, so they had to make some type of announcement. But it seems weird that it took our whole Heresy Thursday just to say, yeah, we're not discontinuing things.
Yeah, and that's
well.
a little interesting as well, based on our second announcement, which is our first campaign supplement.
Campaign book.
Yeah. What is it? The Siege of Sithonia?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yep.
If I understood correctly, not a whole lot shown, not a whole lot demonstrated. But it's going to be Imperial Fists versus Sons of Horus. There's apparently going to be some Loyalist Thousand Sons in there. Was there anything else I missed?
Yeah, there was I think there was 2 other legions with the thousands, or not the Thousand Sons, with the Sons of Horus.
There's
They were, like, smaller.
Expanded ZM rules.
yeah, expanded full bore ZM rules, and we're getting 2 new types of console that will be available for everybody.
There was a
all
sneaky
legions.
pick of a new tank, I think, in the background as well.
Yeah,
Possibly
and
anything.
allegedly the Salamander's Terminator Praetor as well.
And we're also getting rules for all legions to have inducti. So there's that. That's also kind of neat.
It specifically mentioned Shattered Legions in that,
Yes, it did.
so maybe Jack will finally get his rules.
Alpha, yeah, it talks about word bearers and Alpha Legion. So
Yeah, that was it. It was the Word Bearers and Alpha Legion. But yeah, there was Shattered Legions was also there. There's supposed to be a couple new unit like tanks in there, I thought, but it's only like 100 pages. Yeah, that was the other thing. I don't remember.
5 new core missions and 5 or 2 new narrative missions.
Oh,
Yeah,
I forgot. There was one other thing I forgot. They're also redoing the Damocles Command Rhino at Forge World for the new Rhino kit.
Yes.
Right, because that was an upgrade for the old resin.
Yep.
And they're retooling that to work with the plastic Rhino, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting time.
I'm excited for the campaign book. I think that's going to be cool. I'm looking forward to Full Zone Mortalis rules and expanding characters and seeing what hobby comes out of people doing that and playing narrative around that. I think it's, I'd like to see the PDFs to let, demons and militia get in there and see what they do with Shattered Legion since they're mentioned. But overall, I think it's a nice next step. Assuming that stuff is on the way in here with it, everything about that book announcement is cool.
Yeah, I'm especially a fan of the fact that they're doing stuff that's really not been touched on in the actual Black Books. No one really knows or knew until they put out the novel last year, or the series of novellas last year, about what happened to Chthoniya at this point during the war, or really Barbarous, or most of the actual Trader's homeworlds.
So I do have a question on that for those who are a little more up on the lore than I am. So how does this fit time-wise compared to, because the Black Books kind of, the original Black Books kind of were working sequentially through the heresy, right? So is it that book 10 ended, right? They did 10?
9.
Or 9. Book 9 ended, and Chthoniya would come sequentially as if it could have been a book 10 campaign book. Or is that not sure, or do we know that?
So book 9 kind of ran concurrent with it because it was mainly the Night Lords and Dark Angels like fighting each other on the outskirts of the universe, the galaxy, and I thought that ran pretty much a long period of the heresy. It was like kind of concurrent with a lot of the other stuff going on, if I'm not mistaken.
So. One thing we have to remember is the Horus heresy itself only really lasted, I think it's about 6 to 8 years.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the reason why I ask is, are we assuming that behind the novels, they're just going to continue doing campaign books that at some point it will get to Siege of Terra campaign book or books kind of thing that, they're moving along sequentially and they're not just throwing out random things that aren't sequentially and don't move things forward.
Honestly,
s-
who knows? But I hope so.
I thought they said in this announcement that this was kind of going on like at near the same time as the Siege of Terra.
Yeah, I know
may
that
be
think
the
so.
mistaken.
Cathonia or the Siege of Cathonia is supposed to take place late Heresy, possibly during the actual Siege era.
And like, if I'm not mistaken, and I may be wrong, I thought also like the Lion kind of went on a rampage, destroying the other Traitor Legion's homeworlds at the same time.
Some of that was done during the Heresy.
This-
Some of that was also done post Heresy.
Yeah, like the scouring.
Yeah.
Which makes you wonder why they didn't do that campaign book at the same time as with him coming back to 40K and try and dual market that at the same time and get the Lion fans buying everything.
Probably because a lot of that occurs post Heresy,
Oh, is that
Yeah,
all after?
like
Okay,
post the Siege of Terra.
Yeah,
gotcha. Okay.
Like the destruction of Barbarous comes after the Siege.
Yeah. It's like a specific. It's called the scouring. It's
Oh,
basically
okay,
what-
gotcha.
But that's really about that. I for one, speaking as a Sons of Horus player, I'm really looking forward to it just because it gives us more knowledge of stuff going on at the same time that's not really been covered really
Yep.
well.
Well, I mean, it's new fluff.
Yeah.
No one's ever going to argue with new fluff.
Nope,
So-
not at all.
Yep.
I'm the day they announce it, I'm gonna pre-order it and I'm gonna wait for the second it hits my fingers, and I'm gonna sit there and I'm gonna take an afternoon and just read through everything and have fun. And then I'm gonna start building more, consoles because apparently I'll have to.
Am I the only one that's kind of disappointed that full ZM rules are part of this book and not just like a free PDF that's given out to the entire community?
Well, it was in the White Dwarf, and that White Dwarf's getting kind of hard to find if you don't know other alternate means of acquiring the rules.
It'll kind of depend. I mean, they
Just
did this
wanna
before.
say
They dropped the
that-
rules and they came up for free later.
Yeah, I think they did say when they put it out that there will be more eventually. I don't remember if they said they would be out for free, but they may well have. But if it's not going to be for free and it's going to be in this campaign book, hey, more stuff we all need to get. So I know as Heresy players, we're all likely to grab on that as quickly as possible. So
I guess,
well.
Eric, to answer your question, am I mad that they're charging for the rules they wrote? No, as long as they're good.
yeah, that's going to be the thing. If they're good, yay. If they're not good, well, we'll take them anyway because it's part of the book.
And as I was talking to Duncan about it when this was announced, everybody has to make sure that we support GW when they do things we like. And this is something that we've been screaming for years. So whether you're a Southern Harris player or not, go. If you want to support it, go out and buy that book. Make sure you go out and buy the book from your local neighborhood game store, but go out and get that book.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, the only way we're going to get more of these is if we actually support it. And, I mean, right now, there's not a negative to it because we've been asking for this kind of stuff for a long time. So, yeah.
More Heresy. Yay.
I'm about it.
Answer.
I think it's cool.
Well, it sounds like that covers all of our announcements. For those of you who were in attendance, how do you find, gentlemen, want to cover and talk about your Adepticon experience? Do you guys want to go day by day? Do you want to go one person at a time?
I think we could just do one person at a time. Would be a little easier because we've all did different things. I know Thursday I was in the Fearix event. So first game I ended up playing. I know second game I played Josh. I can't remember the first game I played. I played Duncan. That's right.
Hi.
And you slaughtered my tanks fairly handily.
Charges work.
Yep. Turn one, you killed 9 predators, 4 javelins,
Wow.
broke
And a
2 javelins.
A partridge in a pear tree.
Yeah. It was like, oh, I'll just keep picking these up. That's fine.
Yeah, I'm going to say this. I love the way your army looked. It really was good looking. It's nice on the tabletop, and it's nice to play against. Night Fight screwed you so hard that game because you had to come forward to be able to get into range to shoot at me, and you had that massive
not
parking
enough
lot.
spotlights, basically.
I didn't buy any. Yeah. And then every one of Lucas's missions is like, if you like Night Fight, do it.
Hey,
And I
that's
like-
from the rule book, brother.
I
I
like
know.
Night Fight. I like it a lot.
I'm just look, it's a learning game, and I've got to learn it. That's what it's about. So
Well, it doesn't matter. I say no every time, and then they roll, and they're like, "Oh, Night Fight."
Well, the
Yeah.
thing about Night Fight is it doesn't have to be wanted by both players. Only one player can want Night Fight, and then you roll for Night Fight.
yep. And so after that game, I ended up playing Josh with his Solar Ox and a Warhound, and I realized that that the Warhound wasn't going to do nice things to me, so I spent the entire first turn blowing it off the table. And then
That was
mission-
a fun game to watch, by the way.
Yeah. The funniest part was the mission objective was to blow up the most expensive thing, and for Josh that was a Warhound, and for me it was a Predator squad that happened to be within the Warhound's blast radius. So I lost 2/3 of my most expensive unit. Ended up losing that game as well by a point because my Remembrancer saw the death of his warlord, which was a vanquisher. I ended up doing a little write up on that, and then won a small fluff trophy of a Leviathan during the award ceremony later that evening. And then Friday, I went to a Little Legends painting class about flesh. Apparently I have the staples down. I just don't have the technique down. So it didn't come out what I think is decent looking. I think I'll just keep more helmets on people. And then Saturday, I ended up playing Inferics again. And then first round was against one of Dan's friends, William, playing Emperor's Children. And then second round was against another one of Dan's friends playing Word Bearers. And I won the game against Emperor's Children, and then he ended up winning Best Painted for the week, or for that day. And then lost the game against the Word Bearers by a point, I think.
Emperor's Children is Will, right? I'm not sure who the Word Bearers player is, but yeah.
As well.
Will's good at painting, good hobby. He's got some nice looking Imperial fists from back in the day too.
Yeah, he had a really cool display where these Emperor's Children are like sieging a trench line, and Xiphon's kind of screaming overhead, and it's a really neat looking army. If y'all have seen the pictures that I put up and a bunch of other people put up.
Is that the Xiphon with the beak?
No, it was the one that was like burnt. All of his stuff is really heavily weathered and has like streaks and stuff on it. And then ended up picking up that night. We played the game that shall not be named, Praetor WWE. I brought I didn't bring any Praetor, so I threw in Staff Sergeant Donaldus, who was just a generic champion in the rules, and won his first round, and then decided to try to come in and help out a Space Wolf being punked because I swapped him out for somebody else. But either way, it was a fun night. Everyone had fun that last evening, and then we packed everything up and drove home. And then I had to end up driving again. I had to drive to Austin the next day, so caught a good nap there. But I think overall it was a great event. Like I said, I ended up buying a bunch of painting stuff, and then that class, and then got some Death Ray Designs terrain as well for Titanicus, and I had a blast meeting everybody again, and being able to finish my tables and seeing everyone enjoy them was really kind of the highlight for me. Was making sure that everything was done right and everything was handled correctly, and I appreciate Lucas letting me help out in that way.
Well, thank you for bringing your stuff. It couldn't have been done without it. So,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Yeah.
Just while we're on the subject, do you have any feedback on? I mean, just general feedback on the missions or Felix in general?
I think the missions were good. There was one mission that was a little odd. The mission I played against the Word Bearer was where we took turns deploying things. And the only thing that kind of came up there was he didn't know whether or not, if he was done deploying a type of thing, if he moved on to the next thing, or he waited till I finished deploying that thing. So you start off with heavy support, then you go to elite
Right.
and all that stuff. And I was like, well, I mean, I'm pretty sure Lucas just stole this from one of the older missions, and then that one you went ahead and moved on to the next thing. But that was the only question I saw in any of the missions wise. I like
Absolutely right. I
I
did
like
steal
the
it.
NPC thing. I didn't go for any Archaeotech. I went for NPCs, and the first one I got was the Remembrancer, and then I got a Knight Errant, which I forgot to get out on Sunday. And then Sunday I went for another NPC, and it ended up being a squad of drones, which I just immediately bolted back into Oblivion. And then I think that was it. I think Eric was nice enough to pick up those drones. Like, I went and got them, brought them over, and went, nope, not dealing with that, and then shot the crap out of them, and then Eric took them back for me.
Exactly.
Don't forget your assassin.
They were checked out for like 2 minutes, it felt like.
Yeah, and then I had an assassin that showed up and died a horrible vehicle explosion death in another mission as well.
Awesome.
I'm so glad that those things are 200 points. I'm never going to buy an assassin to go with an army. I think it's just going to be.
And my assassins in the NPCs were beefed up. I had like given them a 2+ armor save and stuff that they don't even have in the book, and they still just die instantly.
Yeah, they need to turn a warrior or something to make them slightly more survivable with all these strength 8 explosions.
Yeah, so I'm really glad you liked the NPC points of interest system, because we got a lot of great feedback about it. Obviously, it's not 100% perfect. Nothing can be, but overall, the feedback on that particular system has been overwhelmingly positive. So, you want me to just go over it really quick, or have I been over it on this show already?
No, go over it real quick.
So basically, like, on the tables, we had these little points of interest markers, and you could, like, if you had an infantry or cavalry unit that went and contacted one of these markers, you could pick up the marker and bring it to the admin table, and you could choose whether you wanted to choose from an NPC or a piece of Archaeotech. So an NPC is like a dude, in some cases that joins your army, in some cases that joins the enemy army, depending on its faction versus your faction. There's loyalist, traitor, neutral, and hostile. So you could probably figure out what all those do. We didn't want to insert a third player into the game effectively by making NPCs that attacked both players. That didn't really feel like that system ever works well. So if you get a hostile NPC, it just joins your opponent's army, which isn't quite like perfectly seamless as far as making, it doesn't quite 100% always make sense. Like, why is this rogue ambot in my opponent's army? But I felt like it was the best balance between making sense and gameplay functioning correctly. Or you can pick up a piece of Archaeotech, which is like a little one-use. Most of them are one-use items. Some of them are just like a little buff or whatever. It's like equipment. A lot of it's taken from the Psi Arcana or old school relic rules from Book 4, and some of it is completely made up stuff. Like the Pocket Miasma, which is basically like a wizard, a magician's smoke grenade. Makes you untargetable, stuff like that. They're pretty fun.
I got that last one.
I was hoping for pocket sand.
We'll add it to the list, man.
Yes.
I was really, really happy with the boom smoke bomb. No one can see me now. That was great. I loved it.
I think one of my favorite interactions over the weekend was the guy playing Squad of Berserkers got the instant teleport device, and at the same time uncovered a navigator. Negotiated with Lucas that if he, since was like, well, I have a navigator, can I not roll the dangerous terrain checks involved with this thing? And he goes, well, do I need to kill the navigator to make that happen? And Lucas is like, no, it's fine. And he goes, I killed the navigator, and then hands it back, and then teleports his 20 berserkers directly into 1 inch out from his enemy.
Yeah, he was like, the navigator didn't make it.
Yeah.
It was really funny.
So in my game with Nick, he had that same teleport, and yeah, that was just not fun.
Do you not like that one?
Oh no, I loved it. I don't think he was very happy with it because I proceeded to
okay.
shoot the ever-loving crap out of them all. And I think at the end of it, he had like 2, maybe 3 dudes after all my shooting hit him, and that was about it. So he wasn't very happy.
Yeah, it's pretty. It's the drawbacks are pretty crazy. Like where they could just enter. It's just like entering from deep strike, where they could just interceptor you to death. So.
It wasn't even that. It was he dropped a batch of veterans in who had I think it was either Melta or Plasma, and he proceeded to shoot people, and he didn't really do all that hot with his shooting people. And then since that was the only thing my entire army could see, I proceeded to eradicate them. I was definitely hiding from all of Nick's army. It was great.
Yeah, I ended up actually getting the Calexis Assassin twice. Once against Duncan, where it died a horrible death, and then the other time against the Word Bearer. I was like, oh, this is gonna be really good against all your corrupted units because he was taking the Zardu Lyak and a bunch of other stuff. And then he blew up a predator next to it and immediately killed the thing. So,
as should be.
Like, I'm on the table, and then immediately dead.
Yeah,
I mean, that just fits for him.
We also had a really interesting interaction on the ZM game where an Ambot came out squarely in the middle of a hallway and eventually became the owner of the hallway. And was just murdering anything that came near it and separated the table into, like, cut off a whole section of the table from the rest of the players.
I mean, that's what an Ambot would do.
Yeah, it was really fitting.
I mean, I'm all about having random stuff happen in games, especially in ZM games, because it's just hilarious. And I think it really adds more to the entertainment of everyone who's watching and playing the game.
Well, I'm glad you guys really liked it.
Well,
Shout out
everybody
to
had
Duncan, who painted some of the NPCs for me.
Happy to. Did those guys have fun with them, I guess?
Yeah, I think so. They got checked out a bunch. At one point, we checked out every item we had.
Nice.
We had every single NPC was checked out. Every single Archaeotech was checked out.
Yeah,
We had 84 pieces of Archaeotech, and
I think that was day 3.
I want to say 80 NPCs, but that's really not accurate. There's really only like 72, but still.
Hey, if they were checked out, they were checked out. That's all that matters.
Yeah, every player had more than one.
Day 3 was crazy because everybody, I feel like everybody was just buying in. Like, you could tell it was really one of the things I will say about it that I enjoyed from the event runner perspective was day 1. You're kind of like, you have a couple people interacting with it at first, but people are kind of, nervous. It's like, is this worth going away from the mission objective to take care of? And then somebody gets something really cool and everybody hears about it and the rumor gets around. And then after lunch, it's like, okay, a couple more people trickle in. By day 3, mission objectives are completely out the window. Everybody's diving for points of interest to get these things. And the games are just ballooning out, becoming ridiculous. And it's just a really, really, really good time.
So what it sounds like to me is Heresy was having fun for everybody.
So who wants to go next about your Adepticon fun times?
Dan should.
Should I?
Yes.
Good.
All right. So let's see. Wednesday was a bunch of setting up. Nothing too exciting. Thursday was running the attrition event. Brought my Ultramarines on that I was going to get some more painting time. We ended up with an odd number of players, so I spent the morning checking everybody in. We were pretty even on loyalists versus traitors, but we were short on army. We had an odd number of armies. So I ended up playing, and I apologize because I don't remember names of most everyone I played on Thursday, but I played a 2,500 point game in the morning, which came up to be either a 1-1 or a 0-0 way the missions went, but it was a really fun game. Went back and forth. That was against Alpha Legion. Had a guy come up. I guess he came up to Lucas first, saying he wanted to try and play, but he didn't have his army with him. So since I was filling in as the Ringer army, I let him play my Ultramarines for the second game. So I was able to do more EO stuff, sit around and make sure everything was going well, walk around table, make sure everyone got set up for hobby voting after the second round. Then the third round, I jumped in and played again at the small point list. Ended up losing that one. Objectives going. I'm trying to remember. Oh, that was the Alpha Legion game. That was a guy I played down in Indiana before, and I apologize. I should know his name, and I don't remember it. So he was getting revenge back on me for a game I beat him at some point, which was cool. The overall, as far as I could tell, the event went really well. We didn't have any drama or complaints. Had some really, really nicely painted armies. Just tons of people coming out playing. Yeah, a lot of fun there. Friday was the teams event. So we had 100 people show up to play teams. So we
The
had
100 even?
it was ended up being 100 even. So we had 50. We were able to had enough variable army loyalists versus traders. Oh yeah, traders won day one. So we ran a little kind of narrative throughout the weekend for a city. Zach had a map done up and who was controlling that. So for the most part, we had some pretty cool armies and pretty decent army teams for the teams event. We did have one team that was probably a little powerful and not fun to play against. So we had a guy that brought a Porphyron with 4 armigers, and his teammate was an armored spearhead ultramarine list. So they played. The team against them was pretty good sports, actually. But they knew they were outmatched and got tabled relatively quickly. We had another guy with the knight. First game went, but I found out we had 2 knight lists. We did have, and I don't, they're apparently, I don't know if it was the same person, but we had 2 teams come up to me after their games, one the first round and one the second round, that they had a bad experience. Just someone was not interacting the way Heresy players interact, kind of wanting to be a little more competitive, play a little more serious about it. Actually, it was Zach that took the first conversation. They ended up walking away, so we were short a team in the second round, and we balanced that out somehow, and I don't remember what happened, how we got that squared away. May have been someone used my army. I don't remember.
I thought you had like a cousin or something that showed up and played.
Yes, Dan, you had someone use your army.
Oh yeah, it was Zach's buddies. Zach's buddies played my army. That's right, against Duncan and Jack. So I guess you guys will talk more about that. And Duncan gave me crap because I made 1 list instead of 2 lists, and it wasn't legal as 1 list, but it would have made it as 2 lists. So I was in a hurry to put an army together because I hadn't made lists for contingencies, which is, as an EO, something that I probably in the future and realize now that I would have saved myself some stress on the day if I'd had pre-made lists for everything when I might be playing. So that is a note for the future that future Dan will have to take care of. But one thing I did, and before we set up matches, we were pretty loose about matches set up. I don't know how Zach said it, but we just said, whoever's in losing or winning, and depending on which time it was, pick a table, and then someone from the other side go and pick a table. And so since we had the 2 knights and the way battles work in Heresy, if you got knights fighting in a city, one side finds out the other side's knights are the right? So I actually matched up the 2 knight players' army lists against each other, which everyone else in the room cheered when I did that. I'm not sure that the knight player teams were real happy about it, but like I say, tactically and then just matchup wise, I think it made a lot of sense. So we did that, made everyone happy. It's round 2.
If you saw 4 guys that made 96 players happy, I think you did a good job.
Yeah. Well,
I think you just got to be that way.
No, and I like I said, regardless of everything else, it fits the narrative too. So I mean, it just makes sense. But then did have, again, a couple guys came up at the end and said that, basically a guy came up and he's like, "Do you need points or just winner or loser?" And I said, "Really, just winner or loser. We're not collecting campaign points." And he's like, "Well, he got all the points anyway." And I'm like, "What happened?" And so the other guy kind of walked away. Yeah, he just was not. He was kind of a dick. He wouldn't give on anything as far as rules, and was arguing a bunch of rules, looking things up, saying, not that I'll look up rules in the middle of a game because I don't know everything, but I mean, if I'm wrong or there's a question, make a big deal of it. Right? I don't care that much. But I know at least 90 people had a really good time playing. out of the 100 in a team event. So yeah, that was all Friday. Actually, Friday night, my buddy Mark had come into town and he played, had a really good time in that. Got randomly matched up with a team member, and I'll see. His first game with Heresy was the first team game. So he had his death guard. He had fun. But his wife came into town and the whole family out to dinner, families. So did that. And then Saturday I played in the grudge match, which was very loosely organized. So actually I first game I played my buddy Mark. We played, he ended up beating me. It was about heavies. It was focused on heavy units, and it turned out that my 2000 list didn't have any heavies in it. So like I didn't have a chance of scoring, and I had to like eliminate all his heavies and so, and he had a big squad of not Death Shroud. Because Death Shroud are size. What are the other Death Guard? Anyway, Terminators. Anyway, he had 2 or 3 heavy units, so he ended up outscoring me. But she usually beats me in wargaming anyway, so deal. And then the second game I played Garner, who I know and have played before. Played his Alpha Legion. I had a really, really fun game. We were playing Ambush, and we played on my table that's crashed spaceship, and so I was defending and he was popping the Alpha Legion all up, trying to surround me. So I was set up inside the crash vehicle, and had my local terrorists that come out and took care of infiltrating. It just turned out that the setup, really, I won if it was a 3 points battle, but the way the mission points turned out, we ended up drawing straight up. But it was a fun, bloody battle, good Heresy game. So did that. And then Saturday night, I did a late night weathering course, which was oil washes and oil weathering with Miles, which was really, really cool, and had fun with that. And then on Sunday, came back and helped pack things into the car, and actually got into Sam Lentz did a wet blending course, which was really, really good. So we had hit a little half of a wolf, and we did wet blending, and I did some blue wet blending on that. It's good practice, good getting, some tips and hints on it, and getting his perspective, and just getting some perspective on someone who's won a lot of competitions and does a lot of really cool display pieces on kind of his thought on how he looks at a model and blocks it out and looks at colors and, kind of, paints little sections at a time with detail, but also just looks at the big model as a picture as it's going around it and other things. So, so I had a really good time. Who had never played Heresy before came in and played Friday, Saturday, had an awesome time. He played my kid second. I think they tied with Nicholas playing the Word Bears. So yeah, that was pretty much it.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad I'm glad you had a good time, and then it sounds like y'all's events went well as well.
Yeah, I think so. Like I said, there were the few issues on Friday with the teams event, and I don't know if they were thinking it was kind of like the old teams tournament rather than just a straight up Nair event, or just newer Heresy players that kind of come into the community and then don't stay because they don't fit quite what the game is, or what the deal was there. I guess the guy with the Porphyron played in the Firex event too. I know he played who did he play? Josh, I think, and Josh had blown up the Porphyron but lost or something because of bad dice rolls or something.
He played Zach.
Oh, Zach, you're right.
But yeah, but it's not as bad at 3,000 points.
Sure. Well, yeah. I mean, I look at it, and then this is the tricky part, right? A 1,500 point teams event, you're going to be playing, you should think about it as if you're going into the hobby store with a 1,500 point list to play a pickup game. And, if I walked into my hobby store to play 1,500 points and I don't, especially if I don't know about it, but even, regardless, he shows up with a port fire on at 1,500 points. I'm just not even going to put my armies on the table, to be fair, because there's just nothing you can do with it. It's hard. I mean, the new, without anything else, the two last cannons at range are just going to tear up anything you come against at 1,500 points. And, especially I think the missions were quarter, setting up on quarter. So then it was set up to where he had the long way to go across the table, which makes it even worse, right? So, yeah, I agree. 3,000 is a little different story than two 1,500 point teams, armies.
How did y'all do your missions? How did y'all come up with them?
So Zach did all
Was
that.
that
So
something you were in charge of?
no, Zach did all the missions. He there were a couple little snafus that we missed in proofreading that we just had to fix as it went, but we didn't do like custom missions per table or anything, right? We had a mission, for everyone each round. But you have to talk to Zach out what he did to put those all together. I have a copy of the packets, but he did the work on them.
Cool.
They seem to go well. Nobody complained too much about them or anything.
Awesome. Great news.
I do know that the speaker and microphone was about worthless in that
Yeah,
room.
we had the same problem on our
I-
side.
I'm still not 100% with my voice back from last week.
Yeah.
And all week at work, I was telling people I'm not sick. I don't have COVID. I just lost my voice talking too much and shouting all last week. And so it was better at times for me just to holler across the room than it was to use the microphone setup. So that's something we'll have to think about. It worked better in a big room down in the hall, but just in that confined space and the acoustics in that room, when you started talking over the microphone, it sounded like Snoopy's mom.
Yep.
Or Charlie Brown's teacher or whatever. Wah, 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 wah.
We had the same problem basically.
I will say that there were definitely times in the hall where Lucas or Dan or Zach were talking, and from the middle of the hall, or in each of the events, I was hearing, and that was about all I
I
could hear.
tried to help out where I could by yelling. I've got a decent voice that carries, so I think in the future, if you just need someone to yell things, just poke somebody, because we've got enough people here. I mean, just the podcast members, we've all got decent voices that can yell. So that way you don't have to hurt yourself.
Well, and
Yeah.
a lot of times I just so at one point I knew it wasn't getting across. So I went around for the announcement, like when there was an hour left, I went to tell everyone to set up. I went around to all 50 tables and just told people, right? Which doesn't make my voice any better. But at least everyone gets a message. You make sure at least one person at the table hears the story and ask them to tell the other one. But you have to say it 25 times, right? So
Sounds about
Yeah,
right.
that's what I started to do. Just went by and did all the tables, like just talked to all the tables personally.
I will say that I really actually liked that touch of the EO walking around and talking to the tables individually. It showed, compared to other events in the past that I've been to, it shows a greater level of care and concern about the actual players, and I think that was actually well received.
Awesome. Well, I think that's how we're gonna do it in the future. We might get a bigger PA in the future, but I think that just walking around, like especially that way, everyone can kind of get an idea for where everybody's at, and then you can also know everyone heard what you had to say.
well, and I try and walk around and see how tables are doing
Yeah, that's what we're doing the whole time.
the whole time too. I don't interrupt often, because I don't want to, interrupt people in the middle of their games, but at least walk around and see what's going on. Make people aware that if they have questions or, I was able to answer a lot of rule questions that came up, so easy enough. So luckily we didn't get anything too difficult.
I had very few rules questions. I think that I remember I had 2 different rules questions, and one of them was simply, where do I find this in the book? The Pathfinder
easiest ones
rule
ever.
that's not in the P section, it's in the S section.
Yeah, I forget it. I think I had 3 or 4, but like one of them was a guy who didn't realize that Interceptor, you had to have an augury scanner or some other rule to give you Interceptor. He thought it was just a reaction that anyone could use. I had to clarify.
I
That was probably the biggest one.
I think it is a reaction that you can use that comes out of your reaction allotment.
Yep.
Yeah, augury scanner just gives it to you for free.
Yep.
Well, but you can use it once. You can't use it
Correct.
over and over again. Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
Unless
you
you have
can
more than one
yeah,
movement
if you have 2 reactions allowed in your movement phase, you're allowed to take 2 interceptors. They just have to be on different units.
Yeah.
Oh well. Awesome.
Anyway,
Who wants to go next?
Okay.
All right, I'll go. So, other than spending some of it in a somewhat unpleasantly painful haze, I enjoyed Adepticon.
They call it a fugue state. I like that.
Yeah, fugue state. I'm just gonna touch the games real quick. My first game was Ferrix Day 1. Played against John and already covered. That was a great game. Loved it. Had fun. I can't remember who I played in my second game. I'm trying to remember. Oh, my second game was against Pretty. And I've never actually played against Chris Pretty before. And it was good to actually get together with a friend and play a game that we've never had a chance to do so. It was a great game. He eradicated one of my Land Raiders turn 1, dumped all my guys out. And so that squad spent the rest of the game, and then they pinned themselves. Spent the rest of the game kind of cowering in the back and hiding and finding a remembrancer. So that part was nice. He had a lot of shooting. It was great. He shot both my Land Raiders off the table. And then somehow my Chieftain squad with my Praetor decided to go running up the middle and start punching things in the face. And they were very busy from like turn, I'd call it 2 on, just engaged in constant rounds of hand-to-hand combat against things like Ursarax, some other squad, and then his Magos's command squad of guys with tentacles that were all kinds of punchy. And somehow that squad just sat there and took round after round after round of shooting and was just bouncing bullets left and right off their shields and armor. It was great. Had a lot of fun. Day 2, I played in the team tournament Jack and I did. We had us versus a Fury of the Ancients, Iron Warriors, and Imperial Fists, Stone Gauntlet, I think.
It was Storm Gauntlet. Good looking army on the Imperial Fist. His yellow was really good.
Yeah, it was very spot on. I really liked that. My list was designed to get up close in combat, and I did so. And I was very happy with the fact that at the end of the game, I had a speeder left that was running around trying to punch Castaferum Dreadnoughts with its chainsword. It was really nice because everything else I had was dead.
Was the Fury bonkers, or was it kind of like toned down a little bit?
It had the Command Contemptor. It had
Dread Daddy?
Yeah, it had Daddy, and then it had 2 other Contemptors, and then it had a thing of I think it was autocannon Iron Havocs. And I think there were 6 or 8 of those, and then there was 3 box knots, 2 with dual last cannon, 1 with dual plasma cannon, and
so it was pretty bonkers.
I mean,
maybe not as bonkers as it could be, but it was pretty bonkers.
It was pretty. Yeah.
It was beefy.
Okay.
It was very beefy, and my list was jump squad led by a chaplain, 3 speeders, 2 of my own contemptors, a thing of it was a jump praetor with jump reavers, and then I had a despoiler squad of just regular despoilers in a rhino with my master of signal. And it's not very big. It was small. It was punched out of its transport for the despoilers, who then hid in the back and cowered away from everything. My game was over pretty much round 2. Jack held his own with all of the shooting, and then I did have the despoiler squad, all 3 of them that were left, charge a thing of Huskarls, and somehow managed to kill a single Huskarl and not lose combat. It was great. I don't know how that happened, but they did. And that was my game 1. We lost,
Awesome.
obviously. Very, very, very handily so. And then my game 2, teamed up with Jack, and they asked Zach and Dan asked us to teach Zach's friend and his nephew to play Heresy. So Dan assembled an illegal list, highly illegal list, for them to play with. And then we took our lists against them, and we toned our list a little bit lower so it'd be easier for everyone to manage. And it was fun. There was lots of shooting. They got to see pretty much every single phase of the game, how it would work, how it would play out. They both obviously have come from wargaming backgrounds, so they both played stuff before, and both of them were really happy with it. We ended up losing that game too, handily, but it was a fun game. I was glad they got to enjoy and learn how to play Heresy.
It was because I had an illegal list.
Yes, that was why. Absolutely, that was why. And then somehow, and I'm still not quite certain how that was, we got Tag Team Brother of Destruction for favorite trader on that from the attendees. So I was really happy about that. That was kind of neat. Then my day 3, I spent playing, or Saturday, I spent playing Ferrix again. My first round was against Ned. Had a lot of fun with that game. Never met Ned in person until Adepticon, despite him being a friend, and had a great game with him. His Iron Hands and my Sons of Horus punched one another. I successfully failed 2 4-inch charges with Jump Marines. Sorry, it was like a 6-inch charge on them. I failed, and then my Reavers, my Foot Reavers also failed to charge, and he punched the heck out of me with some Terminators, and I punched back, and it was fun. And my last game was against Nick, friend up in Indiana, and we had this giant big building right in the middle of our table, and there was a 1 foot wide gap that I could hide behind because he had a lot of shooting with Fury of the Ancients, and so
His was like a balanced Fury of the Ancient.
Very balanced Fury of the Ancients, and not a bad game at all. And so I literally hid everything in this block and then in a building behind that so that he couldn't see anything to shoot it except the side of a Land Raider, and he would actually be shooting at the front, so I had a really decent cover save there. And so he shot at everything, and he kept coming forward and kept coming forward. And then finally, when he got to where it was, other than the vets that kind of teleported in and then got shot off the table round 2 or round 1, he came forward finally with his command squad and then his dreads, and that's when everybody poured out of the Land Raiders. Everybody moved forward. The Land Raiders did some shooting, and then there was while he would not be able to successfully countercharge with his reaction, threw all the Marines in the way, and then I just started charging everything. It was fun. It was down to the wire. It came down to a Reaver Sergeant finally punching out a Leviathan while my command chieftains punched out his command contemptor, and then my last cannon raiders sitting there and exchanging fire with 3 remaining Marines who were sitting on an objective in the back. Really fun game. I've played against Nick a couple times. I've played against that list before with my list, and it's always a bloody slugfest for both of us, but it's a fun game, and I had a lot of fun. Spent time walking around, looking at Heresy armies, taking pictures of them, talking to people who just share the same passion for the game. Really loved it. Wandered around in the Heresy Hall, enjoyable. Did some time in the merch hall, bought some stuff. Not a lot, honestly, this year. And then talked to a whole bunch of friends I haven't seen for years. So I had a great time. Jack, how about yours?
It was fantastic. I did Firex day 1 on Thursday after Dan made me slip around all the hall downstairs on Wednesday looking for terrain and mats, and the guy named Joe. Shout out Joe. Thank you for your help, Joe, and everybody that was down there. Game 1 was his name Steven. It was Thousand Suns, which were the big bag boogeymen from last edition. or one of them. Not as scary, not as broken. 10 out of 10 would play again. Like wasn't that big of a thing. He was very much after the little baubles of people and guns and whatnot. Since it was my only day playing that one, I just kind of went for shooting. I think I ended up winning that game on secondaries, only because there was a big slap fight at the very middle of the table with his command squad and my suzerains, and Suzerain Bob held off his Praetor for a couple of turns while everybody else in the squad just whooped up on Sekhmet. So that was fun. Game 2 was Night Lords against Annabelle. Night Fight and Fear and all that good stuff is no joke. She is a convert from 40K, so welcome. Army was fully painted. Both armies were fully painted. Fantastic job on that. That was a game. I lost that one. See here. Friday was the team, which Duncan already talked about. It was always good, working and training people that are interested in the hobby. So the highlight of that team game was helping show people what Heresy 2.0 is and walking them through that. That was fun.
You think they might buy into it?
The nephew is playing on a Iron Warriors army, which made JP very happy.
Malachi was the nephew's name, and
Malachi,
he's actually reached out to me because I gave him my email address, and he reached out to me to get a copy of a list made for him. So I gave him a not unpleasant Welcome to Iron Warriors 30K list. I think he'll have fun with it.
Okay. See here, I did after teams. I did a double header on Friday. I did Beta Garmin Friday night, which was supposed to be 2 rounds, but ended up being 1 round because of time constraints. Alex, I'm not going to repeat everything he said because we are a friendly podcast, but basically it was anything goes. Call out who you want to call out, and slap some people around.
It was big boy rules.
What's that?
Big boy rules.
Yep. So somehow I ended up on a team with Zach and Pretty, and across the table was JP, a young man who I cannot remember, who had a really cool themed Alpha Legion list that had full Mataris as his rewards of treason, and then a World Eaters list for the other guy. Only reason why I am shouting this out is because it's hilarious. JP is what's the word I'm looking for? Very loud, very boisterous. Yeah.
Very JP.
Very JP. He likes to talk a lot of smack. And I know this isn't the right name. So JP, if you're hearing this, I could be doing it on purpose. I could not be doing it on purpose. But his falchion was named Diesel, Destroyer of All Men, or was it women? Or Poodles, possibly. I can't remember. Conqueror of Worlds, winner of Best Painted in Scandus, which, speaking as a Scandinavian, that's not really a real place. Destroyer of Worlds, maker of peanut butter and toast sandwiches. He gave it a lot of accolades. All I know is that Last Cannon Team made it go boom. And much joy was happened after that. And I was like, so you're Destroyer of Poodles, Conqueror of Tacos, Eater of French Fries. Didn't last very long, but because I let Zach borrow my Fellblade, non-name Fellblade, winner of Music City Heresy painting, managed to live longer than yours. So how did that work out, JP? He's like, well, Scandus is more better known, and Zach fired back very quickly. I love you, Zach. I know where Nashville is. I don't know where Scandus is. So it was a fantastic game. I've never got to play a game with Zach before or Pretty. So that was very, very fun. The guys across the table, I'm sorry I do not remember your names. other than JP, but JP is JP, and he won't let you forget his name.
Is that Zach Paget you're talking about?
Yeah, Zach Paget, powerful Zach.
Yeah.
It was fantastic. Easily the most fun I had in this one game over the whole entire weekend, because somehow we made it 3 turns in like 4 hours on like a 10,000 point game. And there was so much sidebar smack talking and bribing of people and trying to get the Alpha Legion player to flip sides in the middle of it with bribing him stuff. It went off the rails roughly about 3 minutes into it, and it never came back on the rails. It was fantastic. Alex, thank you very much for throwing on a very entertaining and very big boy game Friday night. That's exactly what I wanted to go out on Friday night, because I'm old and I took Saturday off because I'm not an idiot. Daddy needed to rest, recuperate, pack his stuff, and make fun of Duncan, or make sure he didn't die. One of the two. It's like whatever.
It was probably both, to be honest.
A little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. It was fantastic. Talked with Zach a few times about stuff for next year. Which has everybody gone? Who's left?
I haven't gone, but I will hold off since we have some announcements we need to make.
Actually, Jamie, you did go.
Kind of.
Sort of.
Okay. Well, do you want to move to announcements, Jamie, or you?
Yes. Let's move to announcements. Great idea.
Okay. There we go. Praise. I'm going to make an announcement for Zach because he's not here, and I'm gonna make it very, what's the word I'm looking for? Mysterious.
Sure.
Hashtag Siege of the Golden Demon. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yo.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate you posting it on Facebook. You might want to spell siege correctly.
I copy and paste it, and I don't spell. Y'all know this.
That's minor
I
detail.
don't spell.
I mean, he announced this at Adepticon, so I don't know that we need to be mysterious, or do we just not want to take his thunder away?
I just work here.
All right.
He just likes to be mysterious.
We'll
yeah,
be
he just
mysterious.
likes to be Jack.
We'll be
Scandinavians are like
mysterious for
that.
now.
That's all I got. All right. What else we got?
Lucas.
So, yeah, the reason that me and Eric came on today is, well, for one, to go over our Adepticon experience and all that, which was, quite frankly, excellent. I think we're running to the end of our time here tonight, so we won't go into super, great detail about it. But you can check it out over on Taking a Fearix podcast, which is linked on our Linktree, which is Linktree/Fearix. But what we wanted to announce is that we'll be running the next event in the Fearix campaign at Midwest Conquest this year. It's Memorial Day weekend. It's going to be held in Independence, Missouri, which is a suburb of Kansas City. That's May 26th through 28th. We're going to do, on Friday night, as people kind of trickle in, we're going to do ZM singles or doubles, like, kind of just pickup games of ZM on Friday night, just as people kind of come in. Then on Saturday, we'll do 2 rounds of 3,000 points during the day. We'll do our trademark Mega ZM at night in the evening. And then on Sunday, we'll do two rounds of 3,000 points awards, and then send everybody home on Sunday. The tickets are going to be $80, and they're going to go live on Best Coast Pairings on April 15th. Yes, April 15th. So if you guys want to come to Kansas City for a little Memorial Day shindig, that's going to be available for you guys. As of right now, we have 20 spots. So be on the lookout for more info. And if you want a spot, get it in early, because we've had a bunch of people express interest in doing it. So hopefully if we sell out, we'll be able to expand, but we'll have to see. Did I miss anything, Eric?
No. That pretty much covered it. Yeah, Adepticon was amazing. I think our next event's going to be even better. We learned some lessons, and Lucas said we covered it all in our podcast episode that we shot today. So get caught up on us, and hopefully we look forward to seeing you guys again the Fearix campaign.
I will probably come back on and make another announcement when the tickets actually go live, and we'll have more information then. As far as one more thing I want to talk about Midwest Conquest, we are not going to be allowing Primarchs or named characters. We're going to be launching our new character creation system. So you're going to be able to create your own character and hopefully carry that through Felix with you, and he's going to grow with you. And we're going to have, hopefully, we're trying to push the narrative to the players where, like, we really want them to be all about, the army that they're bringing to Felix and the guy that the main guy, the praetor or the centurion or whatever. And so we want to open up the customization a little bit from what's in the book, because what's in the book basically ends in either a Paragon Blade armed praetor or a Thunderhammer armed praetor almost every time. So we want to open it up a little bit and have some really cool custom builds. And one of the things that we're trialing right now and figuring out how we're going to do the points is your praetor is going to be able to select a centurion upgrade. So you can have a chaplain praetor or a librarian praetor or a diabolist praetor or even a saboteur praetor.
Now that's neat.
So we're going to try that out.
Did that up in Indiana for a while.
Yeah. Right now we're thinking you're just gonna pay the points that it costs to upgrade your centurion to upgrade your praetor. We haven't really run into any problems so far with that yet. So
I will say that I don't know how far you guys have looked into this. We did things such that you could buy any single appropriate console upgrade. So, like, if you took a Cataphracti Praetor, you could buy any of the Cataphracti console upgrades at the listed cost. And then I think we did one step further, but I think that was based on eliminating randomly rolled warlord choices or warlord traits, and those are just out of the game period now, which is pretty cool. Yeah, I don't immediately think that I can hard flag anything that stood out as hey, this was a big problem to double stack these. That may be different in the new edition, and I would tell you to keep an eye out on the Warmonger. It's a console choice that's increasingly getting some people asking some questions around here, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we'll definitely think about it. I appreciate the feedback on that. Part of my outlook on it a little bit is if people want to break it, they're going to break it. But what we're going to do is we're going to require a written narrative blurb about your man. So if you're not willing to write 2 paragraphs about your dude and why he is a chaplain, then you don't get to use the system. So hopefully that cuts down on that kind of stuff.
Yeah, wouldn't surprise me. I'm very excited for that.
You mean everyone doesn't have 2 paragraphs of at least their anyone who's above their sergeant already written for their heresy armies already? Or am I just a weirdo?
I mean,
I
just to be
haven't
fair,
written
we had a guy come to the Felix event this year. Absolutely blew my mind. 17-year-old kid. He knows who I'm
His
talking
name's
about.
Jonathan.
Jonathan has a full written narrative for his entire army, and I believe every model in his army has a name. Went so far as he won a rhino at our event for best narrative, and has already built it, has already named it after Felix.
Yep. He's a really good dude.
That's awesome. I love hearing that.
He and Cody played in our event, and they had the probably the best game of the weekend. Like, they had an awesome game. Cody really took it. Cody McGearty. Cody really took it to the next level for him, and really was a super cool dude, and they look like they had a great time.
That's awesome.
I mean, I don't want to jump into it too far, but that was when I built in 2002 my Manus Warriors Legion for 40K and played in a slow grow campaign tournament series they had at the local hobby store. I was showing up that every sergeant and every unit had a name, and they were all I was looking them up online and encyclopedias and stuff, so they were all insectoid names that made sense, or some scope off of that. Had a story for all of them, as battles happened and units did really good. Throughout that series. So I mean, that's kind of my start of playing narrative wargaming before, nobody in 2002 was talking about narrative gaming, right? That was a thing yet. And so, I love seeing that stuff. That's part of what brings me to Heresy over all the other games. So, anyway.
Well, we're trying to push that, and people may have that already like written for their army, but a lot of times that's something that's kind of private. They don't usually share it. So we're trying to get them to open up a little bit and share it with us, and like we want to give away prizes for people who have really cool ones.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, it makes a lot of sense. I love that.
Yeah, I love the fact that people are going all out like that. That's just
It's also
That's the
really
goal.
special to the way we decided to do it, because we narratively wrote them out in the story. So as you're listening, if you haven't had a chance, or if you didn't know, Story for Felix was fully voice acted by Voldemort's Guide to Warhammer. In the last narrative chapter after the last day, everybody basically found out at the same time that probably no longer in system. What was left of their armies is sort of what we expect to narratively see push forward.
Cool.
Super cool. Very exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing how the system and the narrative setting go for you guys.
Awesome.
With that having been said, does anybody else have anything to bring up before we sign off here?
Malort.
Malort!
Nope.
There will be no summoning of the Malort noise.
Malort!
Malort.
All right, clearly that is a sign that we need to stick a fork in these old men and wrap this episode up.
I mean, that sounds reasonable to me.
Jack,
You may pretend like
Jack,
you're
you
not
can
old, but
you
you're
can
still
say
out
hey
there.
all you want, like it doesn't make you younger.
All I'm going to say is, if you drank the Malort, you are probably immune.
Malort!
If you drank the Malort, you probably are immune.
We can't make that claim. But in any case, we've been glad to have you with us for the first of our Adepticon recaps. I don't know if we're quite gonna necessarily have more shows like this to put together, but regardless, we appreciate you taking the time to be here with us, listeners. I've been Jacob, and this episode I've been joined by
Dan.
Duncan.
Jack!
John.
Jamie.
and our special guests, Lucas
And
And once again, remember, stay accountable to your hobby and your buddies, and we'll see you next time.